gentlemen, it's good to see you again. It's been a while. It feels like ages ago since I done the match reaction for Livingston at the weekend, but we're back. There was not much to talk about yesterday, and once again, very similarly today, not an awful lot to talk about. There's not a lot in the news. There's nothing really fresh to speak about. It's just kind of reflecting, really, and talking about how things are now going with Celtic as we move forward. Of course, a week where Celtic won't be participating in midweek fixtures. That's the one fault that we've had on so far. What I'd say has been a fairly decent transition. I know for some it's maybe not as smooth as I'd like it to be, but the one major flaw that we can have so far is the fact that we aren't competing in that quarterfinals stage of the League Cup. So we'll have to watch on and envy this week at those who booked their trips to Hampden. But listen, let's try not to be overly negative about it. Just sometimes you have to just accept you're not winning a treble. But there's still a double that can be done for Celtic. We're still in a commanding position in this league right now. And our biggest competitors at the minute aren't even Rangers. It's St Mirren. So yeah, we've got a wee few things to talk about. I basically want to just use this as a kind of, 25-minute, half an hour live stream to talk to you guys, get your points, get your questions, have a bit of a Q&A, a bit of a discussion surrounding everything that's went on. I will do a little bit of recapping on some highlights from Saturday's game. But yeah, generally, positive place to be in. And I think if you look at the title for my stream tonight, are things starting now to come together for Brendan Rodgers? I would say absolutely yes. I know this time a week ago, or roughly a week ago, we were a little bit disappointed with the European result, going down to 10 men and losing that game when there was, a good chance of winning. But, tough game. Domestically, I think we've seen a drastic improvement from what we've seen against Kilmarnock, against St Johnstone about a month ago. So I think things are generally heading in the right direction. Brendan Rodgers is slowly and surely winning more fans on his side as well. So yeah, listen, happy with how things went at the weekend, and now we look forward to our next game. Thank you, by the way, to John, who has donated right at the top of the stream. Very much appreciated, John. What a legend. Thank you for joining in. And hello to everybody who's in there. Mark, Mackenzie, John, who is already in here with a donation. Doug, who is a great supporter of the channel, the Livingston man himself. Nice to see a lot of the familiar faces in the chat. It's nice to always get a wee bit of conversation going. And let's do that, and then we'll get into the Q&A segment. So 3-0 at the weekend, just to quickly recap on it again. Doing that with 10 men on the park. Brilliant result for Celtic. Livingston's a tough place to go, as we know, and I know that we've kind of ended that that bad juju that we have there. That hijinks of a ground that can be a difficult place to play. Yeah, did I say hijinks? That jinx of a ground. That's what I meant to say. That jinx of a ground that we have struggled in since they've returned to the top flight. But Brendan Rodgers continuing on the good times there. It's now a place which I go to more and more optimistic. And when you're playing like that with 10 men on the park, we made it look as though Livingston were the team with 10 men. And yeah, I don't think quality-wise they're anywhere near the level that they were maybe 2-3 years ago. But it still always can be a tricky game. And everybody had to pull that out the bag after Joe Hart's red card at the weekend. And in reflection now, I was pretty harsh on Joe in my post-match reaction. From my seat in the ground, I was directly behind Joe Hart when it happened. Watching it live in real time from my seat in the stadium, it looked like Joe Hart had just made a right royal blunder of it, getting himself sent off. But the more you do go and watch it back, the more that, it's there. I understand the red. I'm not disputing it's a red card. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. But I went in really strong on Joe. And, there is the criticism that's warranted for rushing out the way that he did in doing that. But he was really kind of left for dead in that moment. I think, could he have dealt with things better? Probably. But I don't think he deserved to be... I think it was maybe a bit too harsh, is what I'm saying. Nonetheless, everybody pulled it out the bag. I thought everybody was brilliant on Saturday. Dyson Maida, who has split some opinion online, if you're on Twitter. For some, for me, brilliant. The goal that he scored at the end was fantastic, but the running, the pressing, the energy that he brought to the game was really important in ensuring we'd done what we'd done against them. So I think a massive shout of credit has to go to him. I thought the captain led by example. I thought he was really good. And then once again, you've got to come back and touch on towards the two centre halves, who once again 4 games played together in domestic games, and 4 clean sheets for Gustav Lagerbielke and Liam Scales, and especially that second guy, Liam Scales, who is right now really staking claim for that jersey, for that starting spot. I mean, I think that we all said on the podcast last week, it was as simple as Vickers coming back and Scales dropping out. It was as simple as Nawrocki coming back and Scales dropping out. But football is about form, and football is about who's playing well. And right now, Liam Scales is playing pretty well. Does he deserve to be dropped? No, he doesn't. And that's going to be an even harder discussion to have in the next few weeks when these players do start returning from injury. We know that Cameron Carter-Vickers is apparently very close to returning, so that conversation's going to pop up again. But right now, wow, we'll talk about it close at the time because there's still football to play, and who knows who'll play where and how, and form can change like the drop of a hat. But right now, if you were to bring Vickers back into the team tomorrow, I don't think you can drop Scales. I think you maybe have to play Vickers and Scales. But Lagerbielke, I think, has been good as well. But aside from the European disappointment, he's been solid. We've done really, really well at coping with these injuries from a place that was looking really sort of negative, and somewhere we were really fearful about a month ago when all these injuries started cropping up. And, you know, we've done well domestically anyway to kind of bring that back to a place of positivity. So it's a massive credit to the guys in the park. It's a massive credit to the manager for bringing these performances out in the players. He's obviously spoke to them and gave them a belief. And Liam Scales looks like a man, with a fire in his belly, reignited to do something. And you know, that happens at all levels of the game. Happens at the coaching, happens in the park. You know, there's a lot of that goes into changing how he's been playing. So yeah, I want to see how it goes. I really do. It's going to be an intriguing few weeks. Thank you to Dan, who's donated $5, saying, for what it's worth, I don't think Ange would have won on Saturday. Brendan Rodgers absolutely has excelled in these high-pressure games, and he was great this weekend. Oh, wow. No win for Ange. Oh, he had a big game at the weekend, of course, Ange Postecoglou. But thank you for the donation. We'll get all the questions in and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'm really happy with what I've seen at the weekend. One player we've got to talk about as well, and then I'm going to go into the Q&A. I need to talk about Matt O'Reilly, because he's easily been, and I know it's early days, it's not exactly a time to be already talking about our Player of the Year awards. But right now, if you were to hand out awards, mine would be going to Matt O'Reilly. I think he's been the best player in the team on a consistent basis. I think week in, week out, from the first ball being kicked this season, he has been the one to watch. He's been the one who has truly kept positivity alive at dark times. He's been one that I think has took to Brendan Rodgers like a duck into water. It's all going well for him. And Matt O'Reilly is someone who now is looking at the possibility of being called up to the Danish national team, which is nuts. Denmark, one of the best national sides in Europe, obviously semi-finalists in that last European Championship. Quite a letdown at the World Cup, but a good side with great players, especially in the midfield areas. And Matt O'Reilly potentially about to take the jump from under-21s to senior squad football for the Danish national side. He has been magnificent for Rodgers. I knew that was going to happen. It's the minute that Rodgers got the job, when the question was asked, who will shine under Rodgers, he was the first name that the majority of us jumped to. And I remember in this channel specifically saying it so many times. For me, he was going to be that. And I don't mean in a similar playing style, but he was going to be the Stuart Armstrong. The guy who we knew was good, but was going to be a next level central midfielder for Brendan Rodgers. Is exactly what happened with Stuart Armstrong back in 2016. It's happening now with Matt O'Reilly, and Brendan Rodgers is getting the absolute best out of him. And we've already heard Matt O'Reilly speak about his relationship with the boss and how he likes Rodgers and how he's came in and had a different approach to Ange Postecoglou and how that suited him. You can see it. You can see the rewards of that on the park. He has been brilliant. He's undroppable at the minute. I think right now he's probably being rightly looked at as the most on form and best player in the country. He's up there anyway in the conversation, and he absolutely deserves that because he's been brilliant. And I hope that he gets into that Danish national team, because it would be a great advertisement for the club first of all, but for him it's so deserved. Someone who's came in and developed and prove a lot of people wrong at times as well. I remember there was that period last season where it just wasn't happening for him. He wasn't scoring goals, but we all knew, and I remember saying it at the time, we knew deep down the quality that he had as a player and how that he would come back to showing that. And he did, and he stuck it out, and he never downed tools, and he got there, and now he's really reaping the rewards that Brendan Rodgers is bringing out of him. So yeah, I am absolutely delighted. I've also got a cup of tea tonight, so you're going to have to put up with me taking the odd sip here and there. So that is potentially happening. That was reported earlier today. I'm just going to go and find the article that was talking about it so that I can just reference it for myself. I don't appear to be finding it. I would love to find it because it would be nice to see who said it and all the rest of it, but I hope he really does get into that team because he's a quality player. He's someone who really, he will be, you've got to treasure him. He'll be really attracting interest from teams in England and maybe overseas as well in the next couple of transfer windows. Hopefully there's a bit of a commitment from him to stay a little bit longer. But listen, we heard that Leeds and Southampton were interested in him. Those teams not good enough for Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly's better than both Southampton and Leeds. He's better than the Championship, but the Premier League interest ain't far away. So yeah, really interested to see what that's going to be like over the next couple of transfer windows, but hopefully he's not leaving us anytime soon. That would be lovely. But yeah, aside from that, I've spoke a lot about Saturday. I've spoke a lot about what we've seen. There's been no really any definitive news stories. There's been a lot of things about Artur Boric was speaking about Mike Nawrocki, for example. We've heard a couple of bits and bobs about Cameron Carter-Vickers and his potential return. But there's been nothing definitive, nothing out there yet. Of course, we won't hear from Brendan Rodgers till during the week when he speaks ahead of our next game. So, yeah, Motherwell on Saturday, another 12:30 Saturday kickoff. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers ahead of that, and we'll probably get an update on those injured players and whether or not they'll be ready to return soon. But for now, let's enjoy the result at the weekend, and let's enjoy the lovely... Yeah, I'm not even going to go into it. I've seen somebody already asking, when's Beale going? Right, let's get a bit of Q&A going for 10-15 minutes. I just want to talk to you guys, and that's the reason I've done this stream tonight, because... Is that true, Mark? Ideguchi playing as a striker? I seen earlier on there was a comment, I believe it might have been yourself actually, that said something about Yosuke Ideguchi, but I had no idea that he's been deployed as a striker. I'm not going to lie, I've not been following the progression / development of Yosuke Ideguchi. I don't believe he'll probably play for Celtic again, but yeah, interesting if he is, if he's playing as a striker. So yeah, let's see. What's this? Thoughts on Gregory the Goat Taylor being back to his Roberto Carlo-esque self? Listen, he was good at the weekend, Greg Taylor, and I'm glad that we got a good performance out of him. I see a couple of people ranting and raving about Greg Taylor. That's good. He needs to keep that up. He needs to bring that in week in, week out. He's been someone who on the podcast I've tried to be kind of defensive about. In times where I've seen Ryan McGinley lever into saying that we need to replace him and all the rest of it. I get it, he hasn't had a great season, but this was always going to be a tough adapting period for him, going from the fullbacks of Ange Postecoglou football to Brendan Rodgers football. It was always going to be tough, and there's probably better players out there than Greg Taylor. There's absolutely no denying that, but I do like Greg, and I really want to see him fight and keep this place in the team if he can make it his. Should we be signing another left back? Absolutely, because we need the left back options. We can't just be playing with Greg Taylor, but there's no reason why he can't turn things around and keep himself on that team sheet week in, week out. But one thing that Mark pointed out that I was going to touch on there, Mark's brought up at the weekend, he was very inverted. He kept coming into the middle of the park. And I guess you've got a kind of two-way street there, haven't you, where the player's got to do something and the manager's got to do something. And maybe if the manager allows that to be brought back into his game, that will benefit him. All obviously depends on what you've got to sacrifice. Maybe us going down to 10 men was helpful for Greg Taylor because it allowed a bit more flexibility in what he had to do. But yeah, he did look an awful lot more inverted. I kept saying that to Kieran and the guys with me. He looked as though he was coming into the middle a whole lot more. So yeah, it's about just building on that. One performance isn't going to mean that he's the best thing and the best left back we could possibly have, but just like the start of this season, doesn't mean he's the worst either. So yeah, keep it up, Greg. Keep it up. I was happy with that. Are St Mirren the second best team in Scotland? Well, currently, yes, you could very much make the case for that because they have been brilliant, also undefeated in the league. They have been really good. Really good. The whole Jota stuff, that's all kicking off. investigation into all of that. I'm not really going to touch on that too much tonight. Jordan saying, nice to see that Iwata is getting some game time. Again, yeah, and do you know what? I think that he was decent at the weekend as well in his brief cameo. Listen, it wasn't a performance for the ages. It's not something we're going to be talking about to the grandkids, but he came on and he done a job. And Tomoki Iwata, who's someone who I've really felt sorry for in his short Celtic career so far, because I just think things have been really difficult for him. And then at the end of last season, when he got a few chances in the team, he was getting deployed in a position that isn't his. He was getting played at centre-back, remember, towards the end of the campaign. I think he played at centre-half in the cup final as well, because Kobayashi just wasn't good enough. And now he's getting maybe back to a chance of playing in the area he wants to play, and I hope we get to see more of them, because I like him. I do like Tomoki Iwata. I don't think he's done anything to suggest that he's not good enough. There has been a couple of signings who I think we just know right now aren't up to the standard that Celtic need, but I really do, but I genuinely believe that Tomoki Iwata isn't one of those guys. It's just really difficult for him to get into a centre midfield where you've got McGregor, O'Reilly, Hatate, Bernardo, who's just came in. You've got David Turnbull. It's a really tough area of the park to get into and get some consistent minutes. So when he does get those wee chances, he needs to take them again. And hopefully he does do that. So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Hooper or Edward? Probably. I love both of them. I'd probably pick Hooper, though. It takes me back to being a child. Good nostalgia there. Paul, hi Ryan. Your channel's brilliant. Why don't you do some kind of phonetic live on a Monday night or something? Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about bringing back the Celtic to Thunder phone-ins. Sometimes they're just a bit difficult to get organised and stuff like that. But it's definitely something that in the future I'd love to do in a studio setting rather than here. So don't worry, Paul. It's something that we might do in the future. We should play Maida and Kyogo's appearance. Now that's an interesting comment from Mark, because at the weekend in the second half I was ranting and raving about it on Twitter. You know me, I'm Rodgers fanboy number one. So I always praise the manager where there's an opportunity to do so. But when we did go down to 10 men in that second half as they were shooting to my end of the stadium, I noticed that off the ball in particular, Maida and Kyogo were doing a lot of sitting central together. The two of them were kind of coming inside, and then when we did have the ball and they had to deploy themselves into the wide areas, they did that. But they were sitting central for big portions of the game, both on and off the ball. And it's something that maybe there's an opportunity for Brendan Rodgers to experiment with at some point. Do I think that we're going to ditch the standard 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1? No, I think that's just the way of football nowadays. It's very rare that you see teams playing two up front. But I definitely think, Mark, that in games where you've got to adapt to certain situations, you can definitely do that. Yes, Duncan. Yes, plenty of people bailing. I heard the Super Scoreboard earlier. There was a few people bailing on that, to say the least. Let's see. Iwata will need to start against the Lazio if Phillips isn't ready. Yeah, true. There's an opportunity for that to happen with Lagerbielke being suspended. That's not out the realms of possibility. What does King Ryan take in his tea? So, believe it or not, I'm a sweeteners man. My dad's diabetic, so we try our best in this household to cut down on sugar. So we're a sweeteners household. But I've always had sweeteners since I was a wee guy. So I'm a milking two sweeteners. You're not taking sugar? No. It's out of respect for the diabetic father. That's what it is. Thank you, Damo. Nice to see you. Some smell a dog kick after you, Rido. Yes. As always, you can smell it for here. Damo. Hope I'll be seeing you in Madrid or Rome. You can say it to the face. I'm joking. Good to see you anyway, mate. Let's see. Iwata being talked about, quiet news day. Yeah, it is quiet. There's not an awful lot to talk about, but it's good to cover every aspect of the weekend's game. Why are you talking about Jota not going to happen? You a hole. Thanks, John. Appreciate that, mate. I got FIFA today. Keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eye, or EAFC as it's called. Let's see. Rodgers showed his worth when we went down to the 10. The way he pulled McGregor over and you could see him explaining the formation with two up top, and it worked perfectly. Yeah, once again, I could not be more articulate on my praise for the manager's setup in the second half in particular. That's the kind of guy you're employing in the job, and it's the exact reason I wanted Brendan Rodgers, because I just think that tactically he's brilliant. And I think that he does well, and somebody used this exact phrase earlier, high pressure games is Rodgers' bread and butter. So yeah, We just need to apply that same philosophy of thinking in the players when it comes to the European games. Take that pressure and deal with it well. DM McDonald, the last 2 games, even though one of them was a loss, Brendan Rodgers has had his tactics 100% spot on. Even with 3 red cards over the 2 games, could have easily crumbled in both games. Yeah, and I think in years gone by, and this is no dig at any other manager, it's not me saying that just because Rodgers, blah, blah, blah. In years gone by, I think we would have seen many a Celtic side really crumble in those sort of situations and in those moments. But we've pulled, Livingston away from home is a game that you need to win. We're better than Livingston tenfold. So you need to win those games anyway. But I think you're right. And I'm glad to see people that are, raising those sort of points. Because I think that sometimes we take it for granted when we get into these positions. Just because we're Celtic and we're used to winning. I think that some people just like, we should get the job done anyway. But these are really difficult situations to be in. And we've handled it really well. And listen, for Feyenoord, we don't need to go back to last Tuesday. I'm trying to forget about it and move on to the next European game. For all that it's worth, against Feyenoord, until we were down to 9 men, we had every chance in that game. So, salt and vinegar squares, even though I've not had a packet in ages. That's the answer to that. Here's a good question from Greg Enthusiast. Is that Baldy Taylor? That's quite terrifying, that. Thoughts on the B team selections with Kwon and Kobayashi in it? Yeah, listen, I've always been firmly against being one of the fans who write off Celtic careers before they're even started. So I'll probably be a little bit more lenient towards Kwon in this situation. Kobayashi, who has only played 6 competitive games for Celtic as well, once again, could be early to jump in. Sometimes you just watch a player and you do need to ask if the standard is there or going to be there. Going to the B team is the best possible solution for them right now. If they're not getting loan moves, they need to play football because they're not going to get any better playing no football, even if it is in the B team. And I know the B team aren't exactly taking on the greatest opposition, with all due respect. We know they're not playing, professional standard. It's not the greatest position to be in, but they need to play football. So I'm glad that they are getting minutes there. Will they ever have a future in a Celtic shirt? I don't know. I think that we need to get one more judgment of them when there's an opportunity, but yeah. Nice. Let's see. Would love to have seen Rogic and O'Reilly in the same team, but we did very briefly, remember? What was that, about 6 months? 6 months, I think we got of Rogic and O'Reilly in the same team. It didn't work. It didn't work, to be fair, Cole. If I remember rightly, it wasn't great watching those two play in the same midfield. They were just too similar as players. You need to have a balance. And I don't think that was offered in that. But who knows? We never got long enough to judge. Forest, Palma, Yang. Who starts Saturday and Lazio? I think Saturday's anybody's game, to be honest. It could be anyone starting the game on Saturday. When it comes to Lazio, I'd probably go Palma. But I want to see what's offered out there on Saturday. I want to see what happens. Let's judge on form after that game, and then we'll have a better idea as to seeing what will happen. Do you think Mark will be back for Motherwell? We'll find out when Rodgers tells us during the week. There's a chance. There's an opportunity. It would be a decent game to maybe get him some minutes before the pressure of Lazio. But I guess it doesn't really matter because no, there's my answer actually. No, I don't think we will. Because logically speaking, I think that you've got to prioritise playing the players who are going to play on Tuesday until you can't play on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it is we play Lazio. He can't play because he's not registered. So actually, I don't think we will. But who knows? We'll listen to what Rodgers says in the press conference. This is true, Donny. This is true. I'm not going to deny that. But my lawyer has told me not to comment. Thank you, Ruthless. That's very nice. Very nice. I tell you, he's not been in the squad yet. He's not been fit. He's not managed to put in any minutes. Not even in pre-season. I don't think. Did he? No, I don't think he did, no. Not got to see any of them yet. But apparently played a bounce game. So there you go, says Craig. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, listen, I don't think Forrest should have been in the starting 11 on Saturday, but for that first portion of the game, before he had to go off, there was nothing to suggest that he wasn't handling it well, or he wasn't, he was good. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Listen, it was, a friendly, and people were writing off his career very, very quickly. However, the reason for him being in the B team is evident. it's because the manager doesn't think he's good enough. You've got to remember, Brendan Rodgers didn't sign Kwon. He was probably somebody who we've been looking at for a long time, part of this new wider recruitment focus for us to sign players from South Korea, Japan. So he's came in, and if he's been sent to the B team, it's not because of that 45 minutes solely. Now, for some supporters that might be, but for the manager, it'll be because he's clearly saying in training that he's not the standard that we need right now. And getting games, once again, just to reiterate, it is important for him to get some minutes in his legs before that opportunity does come calling him again, when he may or may not be good enough. So we'll wait and see. Great moment for the Baniacs on Saturday. Yep, it was. Baniacs will be happy. I mean, that's what, 2 games that he's going to get, Motherwell and whoever follows, because it's a 2-match suspension for Joe, isn't it? It's an automatic red. Or a straight red's a automatic 2-game ban, isn't it? I believe. So, and on that note, Mark asking where's Siegrist. I think we all know that Siegrist's Celtic career is done. And he probably wanted it to be done permanently through the summer. I think he would have probably wanted a move that didn't materialise. I don't think we're ever going to see Benji Siegrist play again for Celtic. Scott Bain seems to be the number 2, but for those Baniacs, must be happy. Baniacs unite. A couple of games for him. Is it just a 1 game? See, I thought it was a 1-game ban. Somebody's saying 3 games. Christ, we can't make our minds up in here. Is it 2, 1, 2 or 3? I thought it was 1 game. And then at the game when I said that, Kieran Auld corrected me and said it was a 2 game. So the latest thing that I knew was 2, and I don't know if that's right. Kieran Auld, your man for that. I thought it was 1, but we'll have to wait and see. So aye. But then we've got Mackenzie saying it's 3. So who knows? It could be 1, 2 or 3. Should know this. Journalist, me. I don't know. I just thought football was as simple as a red card, you're out for the next game, but no, apparently not. So yeah. Heart suplexed the boy. If that's 1 game, I retire. I don't think he quite suplexed them. Maybe like super kicked them. I don't think he quite suplexed them. Bain was good, but made a few mistakes. Maybe it was a bit rusty. Listen, I couldn't really fault Bain that much, but then again, from my end, he played the second half at the other end of the park, and if you know what it's like at these games, if you're sitting, it's difficult to see what goes on at the other end, and I've not watched extended highlights or anything like that. I've only seen the goals back and the red card, so I couldn't sit here and honestly comment and say like, oh, he done too much. Yeah, more a Claymore. Oh, now it's 4. We're just got to keep going. It's actually a 30-game ban, Joe has. You know that? Could be very well 5. Could be. I mean, if you've seen the referee at the weekend, he'd love it to be 5. But aye. Right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there for this evening because we are approaching that half-hour mark. Hopefully there is a lot to talk about over the next week. That would be ideal. If not, then maybe more live streams and maybe, who knows, something else to look for somewhere else. We'll wait and see. But that is going to be me for tonight. I've appreciated all 250 plus of you who've been watching on. If you've missed it from the start, don't worry, it'll be up for you to watch, so make sure and do that. But thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to the donators from tonight as well. It's all very much appreciated. But enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. I'll hopefully be back on the channel tomorrow. But God bless,